Okay, on the subject of anemia, I kind of went and started to look around because you always hear about iron and anemia, and there's a lot of overly simplistic look at the cards, don't look at the fingers, magician stuff that happens with how we break down anemia, and it can be overly simplistic, and it causes people to go take all these iron pills, and then that doesn't work, and then that creates harm, and so it's like I don't have this, I go over that, and it's like sometimes it's much more. It's more. There's more. There's other phenomena that's around that why that's not working than just the exact missing thing. So and certain associations as well. Like I know that in France, they'll prescribe. Back in the old days, the doctors would prescribe boudin sausage, which is like blood sausage, which is very rich in vitamin D if the pigs have been outdoors, and very rich in. There was vitamin A in there in the blood. There was a lot of these vitamins combined with fat, and then of course the iron in the blood itself, right? So you have this perfect combination, and it turns out that they figured out that it was the retinol that was helping the body absorb the iron properly. So sometimes it's not the iron that's missing, it's the retinol that's missing for the absorption of the iron. So there's other ways to look at this anemia thing. But I'll just read what I found because I found some interesting stuff on a few different pages. And so I'll just read, and then maybe I'll do like a synthesis of what I discovered. So abnormal magnesium-deprived red blood cells lack flexibility that allow them to enter tiny capillaries. These non-discocytes are characterized by a variety of irregularities, including surface bumps or ridges, a cup or basin shape, and altered margins instead of the round shape found in discocytes or discocytes. I don't know. I'm speaking French here, but whatever. When people become ill or physically stressed, more magnesium deficient, a higher percentage of discocytes transform into these less flexible non-discocytes. So this is also how the delivery of the iron, because the blood cells deliver the iron and oxygen, and so there's this kind of double role there that the iron is not being the delivery vehicle is broken, so it's harder for it to get around and move properly, and so less efficiency, basically, some part of the broken down delivery system. And then also the uptake into the blood, like the iron deficiency of absorption at that level, so there's also getting it into the blood, and then once it's in the blood, how does it get distributed? And so you have multiple levels. But so I'll keep reading. Magnesium stimulates the movement of oxygen atoms from the bloodstream to the cells. Magnesium and zinc prevent the binding of carbon monoxide to heme, which is heme, we'll say heme, of hemoglobin, the first half, heme, which otherwise binds 25,000 times more strongly than does oxygen. The dissociation of oxygen is also helped by magnesium because it provides an oxygen absorption isotherm, which is hyperbolic. So what that means is the magnesium is providing a shape, basically, and a flexibility, which is allowing for, like, it goes on to say sigmoidal, so it's allowing for kind of a C-shaped basin in the shape of a C, which is, so it's barely sitting on there, right, the oxygen molecule, and so that is allowing for that to be redelivered properly without overly bonding like it did with the 25,000 times stronger without the presence of magnesium for carbon monoxide or whatever it was. And so it's allowing these bonds to be weaker, so that there's a better delivery system of oxygen and less waste of oxygen, therefore increase in oxygen delivery through magnesium, high level magnesium in the blood and in the tissues as well. So That's what they're saying, and if he goes on to say, it also ensures that the oxygen dissociation curves are sigmoidal, which maximizes oxygen saturation with the gaseous pressure of oxygen. So imagine that this magnesium is contributing a flexibleness to the structure of the hemoglobin and allows it to capture this oxygen properly so that it can offload properly without having any difficulty or loss of energy in so doing. And so this creates a much more streamlined system, efficient system, etc. Oxygen dissociation with increased delivery to the tissues is increased by magnesium through elevation of 2.3 biphosphoglycerate, which is BPG, 2.3 BPG. Magnesium stabilizes the ability of the porphyrin ring to fluoresce. You know, that color, that red color that we have in the blood cells, that's that fluorescence of that ring coming through, and magnesium stabilizes that. And so there's a lot of testing done on the color, that color, and, you know, sickness and health. And so that's also another marker there. On another subject, magnesium also can act as a gate because a molecule of water attaches to magnesium, and so that because it's heavier due to that, it can use that attachment to trigger hydrophilic and hydrophobic reactions to gate certain. You know, imagine like a wall that has a hole in it, and then this water coming in there is going to gate. So it's going to push something away or push something else in. And sometimes it's what's the word again? Alloscleric? I forget the word. It's a medical term. Allosteric. So sometimes that gate's going to shut here, it's going to open up over here. So it's like because of what's happening here, there's a signal on the other side of you know, so that's how they communicate with each other. So, and I'm not trying to be all like, you know, smart and figure out some interesting medical terms, but sometimes you need them. Some of them are needed to explain things. I would much rather try to find a simpler way of seeing all this, you know, with the flexibility. I think that's the key feature here in magnesium and what it does. And so that's allowing for this delivery of oxygen and the iron oxygen capacity to work better. The more blood cells are being produced, better efficiency. This is creating more iron as well. This is getting iron delivered, and it's used to detoxify and used for every other thing. And so that allows it, you know, to not, well, oxidize first of all through the oxygen, and then it keeps it like healthy basically. And so that healthy blood cell, and also like we saw with the movement, the shape of it actually, and like edges and all this kind of stuff, like inflammation can create all of that too. So, and magnesium is the #1 anti-inflammatory as far as molecularly. So it's a powerful idea for anemia. It has to be there. This deficiency has to be covered for anemia. In addition to the foods and the iron, and like I said, if you could drink a glass of blood, your anemia would end over in 3 seconds. But not many people are going to do that. Some people will go back to their roots and eat blood pudding and blood sausage, and they'll go back to some of these traditions and get there. Some people eat liver, you know, chicken liver pate once a week. That can do it too. There's a lot of ways to get this stuff done, you know. On a food level, but and sometimes that's the best. I mean, if you're a vegetarian, you might have to go with you might have to learn to make lacto-fermented beet juice, but it's actually not juice. It's more like blood. It's very thick and syrupy when you know how to make it right, and you use this as a blood tonic, and you can use it with maybe cream, and that'll make it absorb better. You'll know because it won't be red coming out all the time. Whenever the cream has been added to it, you'll realize it's coming out normal color. So you're like, wow, I'm retaining it. So you'll have to learn a few tricks if you are vegetarian to speed up the process the best you can. So anyway, let's see if there's more here because this is an interesting topic. Magnesium deficiency leads to significant decreases in the concentration of red blood cells, hemoglobin, and eventually a decrease in whole blood iron. There you go. So there's anemia right there. In fact, we find many ways in which magnesium deficiency leads to problems with oxygen transport and utilization. Chronic magnesium deficiency also has been shown to increase copper absorption and concentrations in plasma, muscle, kidney, and liver. Magnesium deficient people use more oxygen during physical activity. Yeah, that makes sense too. The oxygen's being used up, and so you get less. That plays into performance and libido and stamina and everything else. And this is the efficiency of the system. So let's see if there's any more here. The structure of hemoglobin is easily compromised by heavy metals like mercury. Okay, that's on another one. Magnesium enhances the binding of oxygen to hemiproteins. Yeah. More than 100 years of study have led to the knowledge that hemoglobin uses mechanisms of cooperatively to optimize mechanisms of cooperativity to optimize its function. That is to say, to collect the greatest amount of oxygen possible in the lungs and release it in the tissues. These mechanisms of cooperatively are, I don't know what that word is. These mechanisms of cooperatively are related to changes in the structure of the hemoglobin protein. Wow. The mechanism whereby red blood cells maintain their biconcave shape has been subject of numerous studies. One of the critical factors for the maintenance of the biconcave shape is the level of red cell adenosine triphosphate, ATP levels. The interaction of calcium, magnesium, and ATP with the membrane structural proteins exerts a significant role in the control of the shape of the human red blood cells. The concentration of magnesium in the red cells is relatively high, but free magnesium is lower in oxygenated blood cells than in deoxygenated ones. This suggests some kind of magnesium pump where oxygen climbs on board the red cells and magnesium jumps off only to jump right back on the red cells again. Okay, so I don't follow that unless this is just a way to keep it more efficient and use all pieces of it. But I lost that last part. But as far as it pertains to anemia, I think we've already understood how iron is related to this and how magnesium plays a very deep structural level of how this works. And not only structural, meaning, okay, well, what can I do about it right now? Because structural stuff sometimes takes a little while to build up tissues and things like that. So that should be the long game, and then the short game should be all the things that we can use to help get us out of the anemia from the traditional foods and the blood-based foods if you can, or like I mentioned before with the vegetarians. And so there's a way to do it, but we got to turn these things up if we want to get there. And also maybe some cod liver oil too, I think would help, because the retinol would be important. And if you're vegetarian, you might be able to produce pre-retinol through carrot juice and cream, mixing those two together. And so that's a pre-retinol formation. But like I said, it's a slower process. But anyway, so there we go. Interesting. We learned something today. So for the magnesium you want to don't get the cheap stuff. Get the right stuff. Get glass bottles. Blue glass bottles from Zechstein Inside. It has to have that logo on there. Otherwise, it's not the real stuff. It's coming, they say Zechstein everywhere, genuine, ancient, Permian, and they're usually diluted and also solvent extracted and chemically treated, because they're not dealing with the natural state product, which comes from a natural gold mine, you could say, discovery, which is natural state magnesium chloride in nature, produced by the Zechstein Sea. That doesn't just happen anywhere. So they can use the word Zechstein abusively, so it doesn't mean it's real. So if it's not coming from Vindam in Holland with the logo, it's not the real thing. So get rid of it and don't worry about the price point. It's a little more expensive for the right stuff, but it's like $3 a week. So it's doable. You just have to know about it. And the glass bottles and everything else helps you to show you the value of the product. But it's not just cosmetic. I mean, glass not only is ecological, but like the magnesium gets attached to these endocrine disruptors in the plastic as it degrades in contact with light and oxygen halogens. And this creates more, this magnesium is supposed to get in the body with other enzymes and chelate with other enzymes these things out of your body. So when you're putting them in through that, it's losing its capacity to do so. And so that's ridiculous. And so for $3 a week, do it right. Come check us out, heartoftradition.com.